Welcome. I'm Tami Lyon, and welcome to MealEnders Ask Tami Live. I'll introduce myself and tell you a little bit about my background. I'm a registered dietitian, and I've been a dietitian for about 30 years. And I have a private practice in San Francisco and Corte Madera, California. And I am the dietitian for MealEnders. And it's been several months since we've had an opportunity to have an Ask Tami Live, but I'm so glad that today we are going to be featuring Robby, Shveyd, who is going to join us for our fitness forum. And I'm going to let Robby tell you a little bit about her background.
All right. Hi, I'm Robby Shveyd, owner of AW Personalized Training and Sports Performance. Here in San Francisco, we are a personalized training gym. I also have a nutrition background. I have a bachelor's in dietetics from UC Davis, and then I have a master's in exercise physiology from San Francisco State University, and I've been in business for, 17 years now, which seems crazy. And so we do nutrition counseling for all of our clients here on sort of a more basic level, and Tami is my expert for anything that is beyond the basic stuff, because that's not 100% my wheelhouse. The fitness part is. So thank you for having me. Super excited.
So glad you can be here. And here, as you can see, we are at Advanced Wellness here in San Francisco. And Robby's going to do some demos for us. But we're going to start off with our first question, which comes from Joan. And the question is how do I design an exercise program with weight loss in mind?
So awesome question, Joan. So generally speaking, when we're talking about weight loss, we're talking about increasing muscle mass, which then helps us burn more calories and burn fat over the long term. So I think there's a lot of conflicting information out there in the market. And I think a lot of people think they should just be doing all conditioning and they should be running and doing low weight and high reps. And that was a school of thought for a long time. Really what we know now based on the research is that people should be lifting heavy stuff. Right? We should be lifting heavy stuff. We should be focusing on building our muscle, especially as we age, so that in the long term, we can burn more throughout the day. The goal of weight loss is to burn fat. And if we don't have enough muscle mass, we won't burn fat. And we want to do that in order to lose the weight, if that makes sense.
And so what type of exercise, like when you think about lifting heavy things, like what are different ways that you can do that?
So you can literally be in a gym lifting kettlebells and dumbbells. You can lift your own body weight, push your own body weight away from you. So our bodies are our own built-in weights. So people think of weight training and strength training as you have to have something heavy that you're carrying. Our bodies are a good amount of weight, right? I mean, the average woman is somewhere in the hundreds and the average man's probably in the high hundreds, 200s, depending on height. And so that's a lot of weight that we are lifting around. We're having to carry that around up and down stairs, all around town. So just bending ourselves to the ground and up and pushing ourselves away from the ground. And we can go through some of those exercises a little bit later. We think lifting heavy stuff because what do you do in your life all day? You're lifting a suitcase off the ground. You're lifting a child. You might be lifting a parent who you're caring for. It's all heavy. And so what we find is if you lift heavy stuff and you practice lifting heavy stuff, you're going to stay safer. And hey, as a side benefit, you're going to gain muscle mass. And hey, as a side benefit, you're going to probably lose some weight if you need to lose weight or stay healthy, if that's your goal is just to stay where you are. Yeah.
And so if you're looking to incorporate lifting heavy things, like how many days a week should you do that? And should you complement that with any other type of activity?
Yeah, so I would say if we're talking about a ratio of strength to conditioning, for instance, I would like people to have 2 days of strength to every day of conditioning. Some people call conditioning cardio. We don't call it cardio because we think of cardio as you have to breathe, your heart's going to beat. That's your cardio all the time. So conditioning is really getting the heart rate up into a very high training zone. But we really want more of the strength component where your heart rate may not be as high, but you're actually bearing more weight on your bones and your joints. So I would want someone to be doing some sort of strength training. Now, what we do in here, we do that. We naturally do about 2 days of strength and 1 day of conditioning. Sometimes we'll do 2 and 2, but we always prioritize strength training over the conditioning. But there's lots of different ways to do it. You can do it in, in here, like in a gym setting. You can do it at home. If you're on the road, you can do it in a hotel. You might just have some bands with you. You might not have any equipment at all, and we're using just our bodies as the weight. But really, you want to do some sort of strength training a couple days a week. Here, we love for people to come 3 to 4 days a week. So we'd love to get like maybe a third strength day in that one conditioning. But every workout that we do here has a conditioning component, and every conditioning workout we do has a strength component, just so you're getting a balance of both.
Fantastic. So kind of adding on to that, so what are the top 3 exercises that you recommend for individuals who are new to training and want to lose weight?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing I typically tell people is just move your body, right? If you're not doing anything, if you're completely sedentary, just get outside and move your body, walk around, right? Just get going. But if I'm looking at 3 exercises, one that's gonna work the upper body, one that's gonna work the lower body, and one that's gonna work the core. 3 exercises. My top 3 would be squats, push-ups, and a plank. Just because you can do them anywhere. You can progress them, you can regress them, and so that anyone can do a form of it, right? If I'm sitting in a chair and I stand up and I sit back down in the chair, that's a form of a squat. So even someone who's 80 years old, who's never really done anything, and we work with people like that, we can then teach them how to squat, and that's going to be very functional, and they'll be able to use that in their daily lives and to help them with their fitness and their weight loss, if that's a goal for them.
So we have a question from Denise, and her question is, what type of exercises, particularly strength exercises, can you do at home?
Yeah, so the 3 I just mentioned are actually perfect for home. Again, we do them in a gym setting, and we can use kettlebells and dumbbells, and we can use weight plates for push-ups and so forth, but you can do all these at home. Those 3 that I said, you can do them in a hotel room, you can do them, if you're at work. I mean, I know people that really can't fit exercise in, so they will, in their office, do these 3 exercises behind closed doors usually, because otherwise people are walking by and thinking, what's that person doing in their office? But these are 3 exercises that you can do just about anywhere.
Okay, so I'm gonna, since we are in your facility, maybe, because a lot of our viewers may not know how to do a squat at home. Do you mind demonstrating?
I do not mind. I would say my squat is not the best in the gym, but I'm gonna give it my all.
I'm gonna step out of the way.
All right, so I think let's maybe just, turn it around this way, if we can do that. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so for a squat, again, only need my body. There are other ways, and I might just pull some tools in here to show you different ways that we do them, but just your body. What we're gonna do is take your feet about hip distance, maybe a little bit wider than hip distance. What we like to do here is kind of rock ourselves back and forth a little bit and just see where your feet settle, okay? My feet are gonna naturally settle. If you can see, they're slightly pointed out. This is my squat stance. Not everyone's is like this. Some people are more straight ahead, some people a little more rotated out. This is great for me. Things we wanna work on in the squat. We want as vertical a torso as we can get. Okay, so this part of our body we want as extended as we can. We want pretty vertical shins. So if I'm looking at my shins, I don't want my shins to come too far forward or too far back. And we want to get our butts in line with our knees if we can. Not everyone can do that. So I'll show you what the squat looks like, and then I'll show you from the side, and then I'll show you some modifications, and I might even grab a weight and show you what it looks like. Oh, look at that. A ball might come flying my way if I'm really lucky. So regular squat for now. Arms can be out here. They can be here. Body up nice and tall. You're going to take it down. Try to get, again, hips in line with the knees, and then come all the way up. I'm looking from the side. Same exact motion here. So now my arms are here, wherever you want them. You're going to take it down. Try to keep my body up as tall as I can. Get my hips in line with those knees, and then come all the way up. If I'm using a ball, thank you so much, I could probably hold the ball right here. This happens to be a 20-pound ball. You could use a 5-pound ball. You could use a 50-pound ball. Same thing. Elbows in. If I'm using a weight, I can do the same thing, holding that weight. Same exact thing. Shoulders out of my ears. I'm going to take it down, own the squat at the bottom, and press all the way up. There's my squat. Yep.
Fantastic.
So push-up. I'm going to lower this just a little bit. Yeah. So for the push-up, there's lots of different versions of a push-up. I'll show you a regular push-up, and then I'm going to show you the knee version, and I'll explain to you what the elevated version looks like, which is a little bit different than the knee version. Regular push-up, we want to be in a straight position, so my body should be pretty flat. Never want to dip the hips down. Hips could be piked up a little bit, but ideally, we're pushing the hips down, pulling the belly button up towards the spine. From here, elbows, don't want to flare them out. Keep them glued in to the extent that you can. Lower your body down and press your body in. So if you want to change this, knee version, put the knees on the ground. Again, making sure that you're not dipping your hips, not piking the hips up. Keep everything as flat as possible. Same exact thing. So now I've taken this push-up, taken part of my body weight out, which makes it more doable for people that don't quite have the strength yet for that. We could also do an elevated push-up, which would mean I would be kind of standing, but I'd have my hands up on an elevated surface. Same thing, that way you can change the elevation. Do you want to see that? That way you can change the elevation. So this box is great. You can use it on a chair, a bed, but then I can change the elevation. So same thing. Yeah, this box could be a lot lower, but again, the whole body comes down, pushing the back of the neck, belly button up towards the spine, pressing straight up. Notice that my body's staying nice and flat. And then the third exercise that I was talking about is that plank. And again, you can do this on the floor, on your toes. You can also take this into a knee position. So the setup for the plank, elbows on the ground. Sometimes having a pad here makes it more comfortable. Bring your feet out. And again, going for that nice flat position, never letting the hips dip down. Try not to pike up. Nice and flat. Pushing the shoulder blades up toward the ceiling. Holding it here. Want to make it a little easier. Take the knees on the ground. Try not to have the feet up off the ground, like you can, but having that pivot point can help a lot. So there's lots of different versions of the plank, but those three are so great because you can do them just about anywhere. You can try to do, 10 of the squats, 10 of the push-ups, 30 seconds of the plank, and then you can vary it. You're going to add weight. You might do less reps, work up to doing a minute plank, 2 minutes of plank, and just play with these. Lots of variations.
Fantastic. Okay, thank you so much for that demonstration.
Feeling like I need to take my sweatshirt off now.
So now we have a question from Robin, and Robin's question is which diets pair well with exercise and which don't? I'm confused if a keto diet or a vegan or a vegetarian diet would work to complement an exercise program. Great question, Robin. Thank you so much. So we should talk a little bit about a keto diet, which is a bit more of an extreme pattern. And with a keto diet, it is a low carbohydrate diet, which emphasizes the consumption of fats and protein, and you decrease your intake of carbohydrates. And for most plans, you go down below 20 grams a day of carbohydrate. And the challenge with this is that it forces your brain and your body to start using an alternative fuel source, so to burn fats in a different way and fuel your system without carbohydrates. And so when people transition into a keto diet, many times they don't feel too peppy. You can have a lot of GI distress, which is known as the keto flu. So in my experience, if I have clients who choose to go on a low carbohydrate diet to lose weight, they're not feeling so great at the beginning, and they don't necessarily have a lot of energy for exercise. But as they stay on the diet or make modifications, they find it easier to incorporate exercise. And Robby, I'll have you add on to that.
Yeah, no, I think that's absolutely true. We definitely have a lot of different clients who do a lot of different nutrition programs. We have some that we recommend for specific clients based on their health and their goals. Keto is something that it's been around for a really long time. It was huge about probably 25 or so years ago, and then it went away for quite some time, and it's back in spades right now, and people are seeing tremendous benefits from it. But I agree with you that it makes it tricky to do hardcore exercise while you're on it initially. I do think that people's bodies tend to adjust, and they also then figure out if they can add some stuff. They don't go full keto. They go mostly keto, and then they add a little bit of maybe fruit in to get some of sort of the natural carbohydrates to give them some of that energy. But they do, when they're on the keto program, they do end up burning a lot of fat as their fuel source, which is what it's intended to do. It also can stress out the organs, and the brain can feel a little fuzzy because it doesn't have the energy to process in that same way initially. But I would say that once you adjust to something like that, working up into an exercise regimen that makes sense for you. If you're someone who exercises a ton, goes on a keto diet, you might have to pare back some, but you'll be able to get to a point where you're able to maybe not load quite as much right then, but you'll end up burning fuel more effectively and more efficiently oftentimes. But keto isn't necessarily something that people can stay on forever. Oftentimes there are some people that are exceptions to that rule for sure. But I do think that it's important to keep in mind how you feel when you're exercising. And if you are feeling really lightheaded on any of these programs that people are starting, I think it's important to know when to, as Kenny Rogers says, know when to hold them, know when to fold them, know when to walk away, know when to run. Because I feel like sometimes people push through and then they end up feeling really bad. And so paying attention to how you're feeling. But most programs can work with exercise. I think when you're guided through exercise and someone's watching you also, it's a little bit safer. Like we have clients that go on various cleanses, whether they do a keto diet, they do a 30 clean, a whole 30, or a juice cleanse. And in those cases, what we find is that as long as we're guiding them through and watching how they're feeling, they can continue their exercise. Is that
okay?
That's
Great to know. And I think, going along that philosophy that not every diet plan works for every person. It's about finding a good fit with your personal physiology, your temperament, and your lifestyle. And so don't be discouraged if you try one avenue of dietary change and it doesn't work for you, that you can always look to another type of program. What Robin also mentioned here is a vegetarian or a vegan diet. Both of these are extremely healthy diets. Just for a quick review, with a vegetarian diet, you take out beef, meat, chicken, poultry, and fish. And you may include eggs, so for a lacto-ovo vegetarian diet. And some vegetarians just consume dairy products for their animal products. With a vegan diet, all animal products are removed. As with any meal plan or diet that you follow during a weight loss program, you're going to want to look to have a slightly higher protein content to help protect that muscle mass. So you want to pay particular attention to your protein sources. With a vegan diet, you need to be very mindful of supplementing B12 because it's not going to be typically a natural part of your diet. But once again, from my perspective, I have a lot of clients that for health reasons or for personal reasons choose to follow these dietary patterns, and they are very consistent with exercise.
Yeah, and I think the key is with a vegetarian or vegan diet is the protein. You hit on that. What we find is it's really difficult. You have to be very, very creative and very mindful of eating enough protein. And when you don't get that protein, it can be harder sometimes to repair the muscles when you're working out, right? So when we work out, we get these little micro tears in the muscles, right? So this is your muscle fiber, and we get these little tears, and those are totally healthy. We're not talking about tearing a muscle. We're talking about these little micro tears. And that protein and other nutrients help to repair the muscle, which then helps to build the muscle, right? So if you don't have enough protein, it's really hard to do that. And so we have to be mindful of that with people who are vegetarian, or for vegan more than vegetarian, because there's so many ways that vegetarians can get protein.
Right.
But when you're vegan, which we have a few clients that are, it's just more of a struggle to get that protein to make sure that they're getting enough of the nutrients they need. So, yeah.
Okay. The next question we have from a team of David and Nancy. Can I achieve targeted weight loss and spot reduce with exercise? And so maybe I'll have you start off with explaining what do we mean by spot reduction?
Yeah. So this is a great question, and it's one that we hear all the time here. People say, you know, I really, I'm not really happy with the way this part of my body looks. So I want to change this. And the reality is, you can't really truly spot reduce. So when people say I want to spot reduce, they're saying I want to work on this one area. And the downfall of that is that you're neglecting all these other areas, and you're going to cause imbalances that may end up causing injuries. And when you're injured, you can't exercise, but you also can't live your life the way you want to live it. So we tell people straight out when they say that, we cannot spot reduce. It's really not possible, but we can work on movement patterns that engage a lot of muscles that will help you reduce some of those spots that you're not happy with. But we don't work on one particular, or not just we, but I think in the exercise field, the feeling overall is that we don't spot reduce. It's just not something that is effective or really possible. That doesn't mean we can't work more on certain muscles. No doubt about it, we can, but it causes a lot of problems if you just work on one area.
Okay. So the key is that you really have to think about a well-rounded overall plan, but through that, you're going to notice changes throughout your body, and it's probably going to hit those target areas.
For sure. Yes. Yeah.
So if you're just joining us, I'm Tami Lyon, and this is Robby, Shveyd, and she is from Advanced Wellness here in San Francisco, and we are talking about food and fitness. If you would like to join our Facebook group and get signed up for our newsletters, you can get signed up automatically by clicking on the bit.ly link in the video description box. That's http:// bit.ly me subscribe. You can also sign up for our MealEnders email list, and go ahead and like us on Facebook. So we're going to continue with our questions. This question is from Renee, and her question is how does age affect what type of exercise you do? And as we get older, how much should we exercise?
Yeah, this question it's a loaded question because there's not a one size fits all for anyone, and particularly I would say for aging. What I will say is, generally speaking, after the age of 30, we lose about 0.5% of muscle mass a year if we're not doing some. We lose that regardless, but if you're doing some sort of strength program, you can help to gain the muscle mass, so you're actually not losing. You're either staying the same or possibly gaining, but with nothing else, we're going to lose it. In terms of what type of exercise, I think oftentimes people feel when they get to a certain age, and what I hear typically is when people are in their 60s, they say, oh, I've never done strength training, I don't exercise, it's probably too late for me to start a program. We debunk that theory. We have clients here that start literally in their 70s, never done strength training in their lives, and they come in here and they do strength training and they get amazing benefits. All the time we see people in that same arena. So what we think is, it's even more important, though, for people in an aging population, which I consider myself part of. I mean, I really think anyone after 30, we need to make sure that we're doing that strength training, that it's really important to focus on building muscle, maintaining muscle, and not only just because of aging, but because a lot of illnesses come when we age. And the stronger you are, the easier it is to fight through illnesses. I also think that our clients, generally, we've had lots of clients who have, while they're in our care, right, they're diagnosed with cancer, they go through treatment, they come back. So we've watched this dozens of times over, and we get their nutrition in line, and we get their exercise going. And again, this is people in their 30s, their 40s, their 50s, their 60s, their 70s. And the strength training that people do helps to keep them healthy and also gives them the reserves they need, so that when they are struggling, they then have those reserves to pull on, which is super important. So I would say to Renee, I don't know how old you are, Renee, but no matter what age you are, definitely do some strength training. And there's always strength training that you can do. Even if you don't have access to a gym, you can't lift weights, whatever the circumstances, there's always something that you can be doing to help to strengthen the muscles.
And do you see a difference in an exercise program, let's say for a 50 or 60-year-old versus a 20-year-old? Do you incorporate more flexibility? Do you incorporate more balance work along with that strength training? Is it different in that way?
It's interesting.
Very similar.
For us here, we incorporate the balance training and the mobility work and the stability work into everyone's programs, whether you're an 18-year-old basketball player from one of the local high schools, or whether you're a 75-year-old client who's never lifted a weight in your life. But I would say the balance training is huge for our population that's older. And the mobility, I think it's important to do a dynamic warm-up every time you start to engage in exercise, and to try to do a little bit of cool down mobility as well, just to make sure that you're treating your tissue right. And I do think it's very important for people. Generally, people who are older get rigid. Their spines start to stiffen up. They get less mobility through their thoracic spine. We find that this area in particular, from like here up, gets really stiff. I don't know if you've noticed, but people get rounded, or they end up here. And so for us, it's really important to keep their thoracic spine mobile, but we do it with everyone. We don't just, if starting with a client who's older, we might start them crawling on the floor. I mean, really truly go back to sort of some of those developmental positions in order to get some of those muscles of the hips and the shoulders working and mobile, and then get them up to standing, and then work on their balance. I don't think I'd necessarily start with balancing with an elderly client right away, for fear that they don't have the stability and strength to handle those positions, if that makes sense.
And you mentioned a dynamic warm-up.
Mm-hmm.
For those viewers who are not familiar with that terminology, what does that mean?
So I'll tell you what it means, and I'll tell you what we do with ours here. So a dynamic warm-up is a warm-up that gets your body moving in all planes of motion. Not a lot of static stretching. So really you're moving through different patterns. You're getting some flexibility and mobility in there, but you're not holding stretches for very long periods of time. You're warming up the tissue, which is very different than what we used to do years ago. We would hold this stretch for 30 seconds, take this one for, so what we do here is we actually do it according to developmental patterns. We start people on their backs, then we get them into sort of a prone position, and then we eventually get them into sort of more of a half kneeling position, and then a standing position, then we layer movement onto that standing position, and then at the very end of that, we're getting some explosive movements to get the blood pumping. So that's our progression, because we believe in developmental positions. It's what we did as kids, and it's what we typically stop doing as adults.
Okay,
so
great, thank you. The next question is from Sarah, and this question is, will I lose more weight if I don't eat before exercise?
The short answer is no. There are, I think, some different things work for different people. I think people feel like if they are, I'm going to use the term depriving themselves before exercise, that all of a sudden they're going to pull on all of their reserves and all their stores. And I think that's the mentality, is people really do think that. When in reality, you need a little bit of fuel on board in order to utilize that and then start to tap into those reserves. Our bodies get stressed out if we don't have anything on board, which could cause fatigue, could cause nausea, and things like that that don't allow you to even complete your exercise. So I don't know, what do you think from a nutrition standpoint?
Yeah. From a nutrition standpoint, and my understanding is that you do want to eat and you do want to fuel yourself before exercise. I mean, a lot of it can be how much time do you have to exercise in the morning. You be just heading out the door, so maybe something very small that you consume, but at least you're getting some fuel in. It can also be an issue of how much you can tolerate, how much you can exercise. And more 20 hour and a half if they exercise, and then I have other people who can eat a third of a percent and they go for a run. So in substitution. Yeah. But the research is that just don't work out the same level of intensity if you don't have some fuel before you exercise. And in the long run, it more than makes up for the calories that you're consuming before the exercise, so that people are going to counter, not eat before to save calories. It's much more beneficial in the long run to get that energy and have a better workout and just stay on track with the meal plan throughout the day.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I think you have to figure out what works for you, because we have some clients that literally say, I cannot have a drop of food in me or else I will not be able to work out. I feel nauseous. And for some people, that you'd rather them work out with nothing in their system than never work out because they can't eat before they work out. But I would say 95% of the time, people always feel better with a little something in their system. Yeah.
And then our next question is from Anne, and her question is, I've heard that you should have a snack with protein and carbohydrates after exercising, but I'm concerned that that will just be extra calories and once again, hinder my weight loss.
So I don't think there's any rule of thumb that you have to eat right after you exercise. The bottom line is listen to your body. I do think there's a lot of benefit to have more protein and carbohydrates after you work out, because you've generally just taxed your muscular system, and your muscular system is definitely part of that is repaired through the protein. With that being said, you're also going through some glucose stores, glycogen stores, so you do need to replenish that. It doesn't have to be right after, but who asked? Oh, this is Anne.
Mm-hmm.
So to Anne's point, it's very important that you don't negate the work that you've done by having a huge snack after your exercise, so that because you feel like, oh, I've just burned that many calories, so now I need to have that many calories. For weight loss purposes, you do want to burn more calories than you're consuming. I mean, if you're looking at just straight numbers, right? There's a calorie in, calorie out component. So it's important to not overconsume after exercise just because you exercise. And a lot of people say that I did a hardcore workout, I go have a huge shake, or I'm gonna go have a huge meal. Having a little snack will help to replenish, but again, I don't even call it a meal, because I think the term snack can make people snack more. Right? So if you think of it as meals and mini meals, then it's a meal. A little fat, vegetables, whatever it is, but small.
So this, and is that you can really look at when you go and exercise, so that if you're in a management program and you can work out and time that workout for your next meal, you can pass that snack because you're going to have your next meal. You're not, and you're keeping that timing in your body after. Okay. So one way is that you tend to notice the energy you spend in exercise a little bit more than time, so you feel a little bit hungrier. You want to be aware of that. And keep your vegetables and stay very hydrated. Yes, because you can tend to see food when we're dehydrated.
For sure, and a lot of definitely dehydrated.
So maybe talk a little bit about hydration. So what about foods in weight loss and training?
Yeah, so I think the point of more often than not, people end up eating for a reason. Sometimes they're bored. Sometimes they actually aren't hungry, or they're a little bit hungry and they feel like I'm going to start eating. Drinking a little water will help with that. What we find is that most people live dehydrated. I want to tell you their times per day. People are low energy, their muscles are cramping. I love with all of them. I mean, what was your one take the last 20 hours? You're like, man, 2 glasses of water in 20 hours. Okay, talk about it. Let's figure out some strategy. Just session last week. Literally, he has 2 glasses of water per day, as to a coffee a day. And I argue when you have coffee, those 2 cups of coffee, you need 2 glasses of water just to stay at even. So then you've got to get even more water. But dehydration can cause stress levels to go up. They can cause you to not sleep very well. They can cause headaches. It can cause, the biggest thing we see is fatigue. People are just exhausted all the time. The second we get their water intake up, literally within a day, they also all of a sudden have a skip in their step where they were grabbing chocolate and sweets and coffee and things like that in the afternoon because they felt like they needed that energy. We get them on the water, and all of a sudden their energy is through the roof. They're craving stuff, and at the point they're not filling their body with calories that their body really truly doesn't need. I'm not saying just have water and food. Amount of to say your body. If you agree with this, make your body in half. Your body in pounds, cut it in half. That's roughly the amount of ounces of water you want to drink. So exercise, if we have diuretics, like alcohol and coffee, very caffeinated tea, we want to then go a little bit extra on top of that, right? So if somebody is, it's not that much. I mean, you think about if you cut your weight in half in ounces, it's going to be somewhere, in the 60 to 80 ounces and up, depending on your body weight.
Right.
So,
I agree with that. And kind of they call it the field test. It's like your urine, looking at your urine being straw colored. It does not need to be clear.
Right.
It's straw colored. But if it's the color of apple juice, you are dehydrated.
Yes.
You need to drink some water.
Right.
And once again, when we are looking at weight management, hydration can help you to stay on track with your food, not only with your energy level, but with your hunger level.
Absolutely. Yes. And when you go out to eat in particular, I think it's important to drink the water because a lot of times you've got bread on the table, they put olive tapenade, and now someone knows the chef at this restaurant, and they're bringing out this awesome new appetizer. There's so much access. If you're drinking water, you will actually feel how much you need to eat as opposed to, gosh, I'm so hungry, I need to eat all this right now. So, yeah.
Great. So stay on top of your water.
Yeah.
Next question. As a trainer, Robby, what are the greatest food challenges you see your clients, especially those who are trying to lose weight?
Yeah, so I would say probably the biggest food challenges we see here, and maybe partially we're in San Francisco, so there's a big food and I'm gonna say food and wine culture, but it could be food and drink culture of any sort where there's access to a lot of great stuff all the time. And so what we find is people eat out or order in a lot. They're not cooking a lot for themselves anymore. And partially that's just because, yes, we live here near the Silicon Valley. People are working a lot of hours. They're entertaining a lot. So some of the challenges we find are there's too much drinking of alcohol. A lot of times that's one of the things that we see. So when we take alcohol out or pare it down, people immediately lose weight. And not just because they're taking the alcohol out, but now they're eating less as a result as well. The other big one we see is people have big sweet tooth and they are addicted to sugar and they don't even know it. So they don't understand that this really is, when you feed your body sugar, a lot of sugar, or carbohydrates are the other one as well, your body craves more of that. Your stomach doesn't tell your brain that you're satisfied until a little too late. There's literally a little bit of a lack of communication. And so what we see is people end up eating too much. They depend on sweets in the afternoon in particular when they're feeling that lull. They'll grab something sweet and then they'll crave something sweet again. So I think that's one of our huge things. And I think the other thing is that we have a lot of busy people in this country. I mean, everyone's busy between kids and work and other commitments, whether it's philanthropic, family commitments. People are always taking care of other people, whether it's a generation above, a generation below. And we don't make a lot of time. So the other big challenge is people just don't prep. And when you don't prep and you're not prepared and you haven't planned, it's really hard to stay on a program. So we try to really tell people that have kids, what would you would plan your kids' food, yeah? Mm-hmm. Or if you're taking care of an elderly parent, you would plan their meals, right? You wouldn't just at the last minute go, oh, what's in the fridge? Let's go get that. And that's what we do for ourselves a lot of times. We're out and about and we're like, oh man, so I'm gonna have a bar, right? I'm gonna have an energy bar. May or may not be the best solution in that moment. So I think those are the biggest challenges that we see here is people not making quite enough time to plan out their strategies for food.
And I think that speaks to the popularity of meal delivery services and just, kind of I always encourage my clients to think about your lifestyle and that it's okay to cut corners. It's okay to get the larger bags of vegetables and make one large salad that's going to last a couple of days, or prep meats in advance, or buy one pre-made item and then pair it with items at home, so you can bring that meal preparation time down from 45 minutes to 20 minutes, which is so much. It's much more workable in the long run. And when you speak to kind of that sweet craving, we found with our research with looking at MealEnders that people use, when they use MealEnders and they have a sweet craving, that they get that signal to kind of wake up and you can stop eating that sweet. So,
and that's huge. I mean, for people to be able to just have some sort of cue. For MealEnders, it's an external cue, right? Like this is what your brain, and there are other cues that we can have, but that one is like, hey, you need to stop, and it breaks the cycle, right? So if you're here at the gym and someone's really hungry and they have a little something that is sweet after, that's not going to break the cycle. That's going to make it worse. So it's important to listen to your body, and also. Community, I think, is really important. I think, when you see your clients, you form a little community with them, right? So to have someone who's supporting you is also really important. So for us, part of the magic of having a gym like ours is that there's a built-in community. So when we're in these sessions, you've got people that are supporting you. And I think that's a huge component as well.
Yeah, and I think as you look at a fitness program, having that community really keeps you engaged and wanting you want to come back for more, because it's more than a workout. You get to see your friends and move along as a group.
Yeah, we call AW the cheers of gyms. Remember the show Cheers, where like Norm was always sitting at the bar, and this isn't the bar version of that, but like you want to go somewhere where everyone knows your name, right? It's what makes you want to go back. Yeah.
So our final question of the day, and this comes from Elizabeth, or actually we have one more. I've heard that some people, when they're exercising a lot, they sometimes gain weight because they end up eating more, which we've talked a little bit about. So how do I match what I'm eating with what I'm burning to avoid over-consuming in reaction to exercise?
So I think this is a little bit of a two-prong question. If you're eating too much of anything and you're exercising, you will likely gain weight, because you're consuming more than you're burning, and so you won't lose weight or you gain weight. What I'll say about what we see a lot with our clients is, and I think this is true in most gym settings, is that sometimes you're gaining weight because you're increasing your muscle mass, and it is a proven fact that muscle weighs more than fat. So when you're getting rid of some of your fat and gaining muscle, we see that people might gain weight, which is why we aren't too weight conscious in here. We do some tape measurements. That's a better indicator. If somebody's gained 4 pounds, but they've lost 2 inches in their waist, we know things are working.
So you're focused much more on body composition.
We are, yes. How you feel. And the exception to this rule is that, and I would say this is more for women than for men, this is really more of a body image issue, in my opinion, is that when women all of a sudden maybe don't fit into their jeans quite the same, or they put on a blouse that they fit into 3 months ago before they started a weight training program, and it's a little bit tighter around this area, they immediately feel negatively about themselves. Well, the working out's not working, the nutrition stuff isn't working, and I would argue that it is working. It's just that your body composition is changing, and so you're not bigger, but you might have some muscle up here where you didn't have it before, but that's actually a good thing. And I think people, women in particular, I think tend to feel bad about themselves, right? I had a woman a few months ago who's just absolutely rocking her program. Amazing. And one of her friends made a comment about the size of her, like, oh, I think it was like your butt in that jeans kind of thing. And I was like, that's fantastic. That's a great compliment. And she didn't take it as a positive. She took it as, well, I must be getting bigger. And I don't think that's what her friend meant, but I think women are conditioned to, if somebody makes a comment like that all of a sudden maybe it's a negative. So yeah, I think focusing more on body composition, less on weight, how are things feeling? And I think measurements are always a good indication.
And feeling stronger.
Oh my God. I mean, that's,
stronger.
to me, that's what it's all about. Yeah.
Which leads me to the last question, which kind of doubles with that. It's that how do you address, because many women believe that if they go and they lift weights, that they're going to completely bulk out.
Mm-hmm.
And how do we get them beyond that myth?
So I don't have it with me, but I'll have to send it to you and maybe you can post it, because we have this awesome picture of 3 different pictures of a woman at 3 different weights. And we present this to women oftentimes in their initial session. And we say, just for curiosity, which one of these bodies, you know, is looks like what you envision that you'd like to look like. And I would say 99% of the time they point to the one that's the most weight. And so we point out to them, well, that person's, you know, 125 pounds. This is her at 130 and this is her at 136. You liked the 136. So for us, we really show them that weight is really not what it's about. It's about how you look and feel and how strong you are. And we do tell people you probably will bulk up a little bit, but it's not going to bulk up. You're going to have definition in your arms. When you go to brush your hair or you go to give someone a hug, there's going to be some definition, and that's a good thing. And you have to wrap your heads around that. Almost all the time, the women who leave the gym because they're feeling like they're getting too bulky, I run into a year or 2 later and they say, oh, I need to come back to the gym. I just don't feel. And I said, we're here. It's in here. Yeah. So.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Robby. This has been amazing.
Thank you for having me. So much fun.
And I hope we can come join you again and have you answer a few more questions.
Yeah, anytime. This was a blast, so thank you.